oops about that. Hey, you're going off
Yeah.
on an amazing adventure coming up to the Ducie Islands. Is that? I just tried to Google map them, and pretty much they're in the middle of nowhere. Like they're halfway between New Zealand and Peru, and there was no way of even getting there.
That's right. So that's one of the most fun things to do with school groups is to find the island on Google Maps and then just keep zooming out, zooming out, and zooming out until you figure out where it is in the world that I'm going. And in total, it takes us about 6 days to get there, including 4 days steaming at sea. So it's out in the middle of absolutely nowhere.
Why did you choose this place to do your research?
So it's an island that is exceedingly poorly studied. So the last expedition was around 30 years ago in the early 90s. And so there's obviously an urgent need to kind of do a health check to go back there and make sure that everything is as we would hope to find it in the remotest corners of our planet. And so this one has popped up on the top of the priority list. It is surrounded by one of the largest marine parks in the world, but that doesn't necessarily mean that everything's okay. So we're on an expedition to go and check up.
You're going to be there for the whole month of February. What kind of planning needs to go into something like that, given that you are going to be so remote?
Yeah, quite a lot, because even like if the worst case scenario happened and someone needed to go to hospital, we're probably somewhere between like 6 and 10 days from the nearest hospital. And our nearest source of fresh water, other than the ship, is probably about 500 kilometers away. So that's for context. So a lot of occupational health and safety planning has gone into this. Thankfully, unlike most of the rest of Australia, there's no poisonous snakes or anything like that. And I won't be underwater, so there's no sharks. So for me, I should be relatively safe. It's just a lot of boating.
And what do you think you're going to discover as a seabird ecologist? And clearly you are very dedicated to the cause. What are you anticipating?
So that was one of the most fascinating things, is that we were trying to anticipate or predict what seabird species we might find there, given that it's February and it could be at any particular stage of the breeding cycle. And because this island is so rarely visited and the data are so sparse, it's a little bit of a stab in the dark for some species. We don't actually know if they'll be there or not. So it's a little bit of a mystery, and it could be a bit of a fun surprise. But one of the other things that we do anticipate to find, unfortunately, is a lot of plastic. That part of the Pacific, despite the fact that we're thousands of kilometers from any metropolitan center, is really rife with plastics. It accumulates on the beaches in quite significant quantities. So we'll be documenting how much is there, where it's come from, and hopefully what we can do about it.
Given it's 30 years since anyone did a formal research expedition to Ducie, you're going there now. When does someone have to go back again to kind of have another look at it?
Well, hopefully we'll make a remarkable discovery of some kind, and this will spark additional interest in the site, and we can launch additional expeditions in the next couple of years. Hopefully our health check shows that the atoll in many ways is doing fine actually without human intervention, and so the frequency doesn't have to be too high, but we could get back to that beautiful part of the world a little bit more frequently than every 30 years.